and welcome to Media-eval, a medieval pop culture podcast, where we talk about how medieval and medieval-inspired movies, TV, and books depict the medieval world. What do they get right? What do they get wrong? And what do they tell us about how modern people see the medieval past? I'm Sarah ifft, a medieval historian, and today Elizabeth Bonnemann, Media-eval's resident Doctor Who expert, is back to talk about Season 14 serial, The Masque of Mandragora. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hey, it's great to be back. That is my biggest claim to fame.
You want to remind the listeners who you are and what your relationship with Doctor Who is?
I am a student of medieval history, and I'm also a fairly avid watcher of Doctor Who. I know more about it than pretty much anyone I know, so I've sort of over time become Media-eval's Doctor Who expert. And I've appeared a couple times before doing the episodes for The Time Meddler and The Time Warrior. And this is the first one we've done without the word time in the title.
Right, but they do still go back in time, so...
Well, yes. That's kind of the premise of the show.
Right. And we are still actually, dealing with, changing history in some ways. That also seems to be a theme of the show.
That's very much a theme. There hasn't really been... With one exception in 1982, there has not been a purely historical, they just go back in time and meet historical figures. Aside from one example in 1982, the last time they did that was 1967. So it's really something that it's a format that was largely pretty much abandoned after the first 4 seasons. So yeah,
here we are on season 14. True to form, I have still not watched any Doctor Who other than the 3 serials that we will by the end of today have covered, which means that I have now seen 3 entirely different Doctors and have never seen the same Doctor twice.
Yep.
We have Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor in this serial. How is he generally regarded?
As far as the classic Doctors go, he is the iconic one. If you see an homage to Doctor Who in another medium, generally speaking, especially if it's from before the reboot series started, they'll be portrayed with the iconic, insanely long scarf and complimenting fedora.
I am glad to hear the scarf is iconic, since the scarf was very striking and also is relevant to the plot at some point.
Oh yeah, the scarf is kind of each Doctor kind of has a really defining the most memorable part of their costume, and for 4 it's the scarf. For 3, it's the frills. For 1, it's the standard Edwardian suit. And then later on, for 5, it's he dresses as a cricketer with a stick of celery stuck to his lapel. Yeah.
The stick of celery is stuck to his lapel for multiple seasons, then.
I think he changes it
and
out.
I think okay.
I think
he switches between different pieces of celery so they don't rot.
Right, but he's always got a celery there. 6 has what the fans have affectionately dubbed the Technicolor Nightmare Coat. It is hideous. If you look up a picture,
I look forward to seeing that.
If you look up a picture of the 6th Doctor, it is horrible, and I love it.
I'm actually really curious, just based on the name, and so I'm actually Googling this right now. Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, that's certainly something.
Yes, it is.
Okay. He does not have that coat, but he does have a multicolored scarf.
Yep.
And he also has very distinctive facial expressions. He has all these kind of weirdly manic grins that he gets on occasion.
Tom Baker is famous for playing the clownish alien. He does alien very well.
Yeah. The way he acts, you have moments where it seems is this actually your body that you're used to?
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if he is human.
He might not be. Maybe he is, in fact, a Time Lord.
It's possible.
We also do, once again, have Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith. So she, I guess, actually bridged the move between the 3rd and 4th Doctors, then.
Yes. She holds a record for most serials in the TARDIS. When determining
Of companions, or does that include Doctors as well?
No, of companions. In terms of any actor, then the record is definitely Tom Baker. who was
Okay.
the Doctor from season 12 through season 19, if I'm doing my
Okay.
math right. I might have miscounted somewhere, but I think I'm right.
And she, I guess, got introduced in season 11, since
Right.
that's when...
We've done that one.
Yes, we did that one.
So Tom Baker was the Doctor from 1974 all the way to 1981.
Wow, okay.
He's there for a while.
Yeah. There are a huge number of people in this episode who I looked up briefly and confirmed that I have not heard of them or seen them in anything. But, you're assorted British TV actors.
Yeah, your standard. It's enough of a career to put food on the plate, but they're not famous.
Household names,
Yeah.
yeah. And the one person I will mention is Tim Pygott-Smith, who plays Marco, which is a relatively small piece, but he does have a number of small roles in some recent-ish films, including V for Vendetta, Gangs of New York, Quantum Solace, and Jupiter Ascending, playing assorted characters that I have not seen those movies relatively recently enough to remember who they are. But be that as it may.
The role of Tim Pigott-Smith that always comes to my mind is there was a film called King Charles III, which is like sort of done in the style of a Shakespearean history play with like the meter and everything, but it's like events in the near future after presumably inevitable passing of Queen Elizabeth II, although she may be immortal.
I think it's more likely that she'll never die than that Charles will ever become king.
Fair, but the movie covers like the theoretical what would happen like if/when Charles becomes king, and Tim Pigott-Smith plays Charles.
Okay. Interesting. I can kind of see that.
Yeah.
So I'll give just a very brief recap of the premise, and then we can get into a broader discussion in our enumeratio section. The Doctor and Sarah Jane are taken through the machinations of the Mandragora helix to 15th century Italy, where they must keep Mandragora from taking over Earth and ruining science. I have a lot of thoughts about science and the Renaissance.
Oh, yes.
That will come up at various points throughout this episode.
Yep. I've read the notes.
I have so many thoughts. So we start out in the TARDIS, and Sarah is getting a tour of the interior, which...
Part of the interior.
Seems...
Okay. The TARDIS is huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, given that she's been on and off, like, sort of living in it for several years at this point, it clearly must be huge if she's, like, still seeing new parts of it at the moment.
Oh, yeah. They look into the boot cupboard, which is a room that is roughly the size of the ballroom at Versailles, but it contains one pair of boots, and that's it.
Really not making good use of the boot cupboard, to be honest.
No.
They also, in the course of this tour, come across the old control room. Yes. And start poking around in there, and end up approaching and then entering the Mandragora helix, which is described as a spiral of pure energy with a controlling intelligence at its center. Or, as it's described later, a fire demon from space.
Yeah,
I think either is legit.
Yeah, it's fair enough. It works.
I mean, I find the two equally comprehensible as explanations.
Sure. Yeah.
We hear a voice laughing demonically per the closed captions.
Yep.
Which we will learn eventually is, in fact, I guess, the helix itself, or the said controlling intelligence at its center.
Yeah, something along those lines.
So they're outside for a bit, they sort of get attacked, and then they go back inside, at which point they are taken to 15th century Italy, and specifically the fictional Duchy of San Martino. Yes. Which I don't necessarily see as being any particular place.
I don't think it's supposed to be. I think part of why they made up a fictional one is so that they didn't have to reference specifics.
Yes. We know it's not equivalent to Venice or Milan because those places are mentioned. Yep. But, and, obviously it's not Rome because Rome's got its own whole thing. Oh, yeah. But it's, it's sort of like, I don't know, Florence-ish, but it seems smaller. I don't know.
Yeah, it's filmed in, I wrote it down somewhere. It's filmed in Portmeirion, which is a small town in Wales that is built to look like it's the whole architecture of the town is meant to like evoke Renaissance Italy,
Okay.
It's a town that was built in the 19th century in Wales, and
That's adorable.
this has actually gotten its own little economic niche as the BBC's go-to place for like generic Italian village filming location.
I will say, it doesn't look bad.
Oh yeah, no.
I assumed it was like a set or something, and I was like, all right, yeah, so they did a decent job.
I feel like it's also where they filmed the 1960s Romeo and Juliet movie.
Oh, interesting.
I do know for a fact that some of the costumes used in this episode are recycled from that production.
Okay.
So that's a fun fact.
Huh. Cool. Yeah, the costumes are, they're very the kind of things that you would see in a 15th century Italian Renaissance painting.
Yeah.
Which, again, decent job. Decent job on the costumes, I will say.
Fair doing.
Since the Middle Ages is very violent, the first thing that we see once we arrive in 15th century Italy is a man who we'll learn is Count Federico, violently suppressing a peasant revolt, which includes, like, he kills a bunch of people and then he's like, leave that one alive so they will know the consequences of insurrection.
Yep.
So he's not a very nice guy.
He's not a nice man.
He also kind of looks like Lorenzo de' Medici.
A little bit. I can see it. Yeah.
Which was like why I kind of had Florence vaguely in my head, even though he doesn't act anything like Lorenzo de' Medici.
Fair. He acts more like Cesare de Borgia, if anything.
Right. And if anything, I would say Giuliano, his nephew, is more of a Lorenzo type.
Yes.
In terms of his kind of patronage goals. But he has Lorenzo's, like, weird haircut.
Yeah.
Federico is violently suppressing this peasant revolt. Meanwhile, Federico's brother dies, which we learn is precisely in accordance with the predictions made by the court astrologer Hieronymus. Federico's nephew, Giuliano, the son of the dead person who I don't think we know the name of, finds this extremely suspicious, which is very fair.
Yeah, a little bit. I have in my notes, Giuliano's father has come down with a sudden case of dead.
Right, and he's like, how did you predict the exact hour of his death? And he was like, I don't know, Venus said so, or whatever. I didn't write down all the astrology stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like astrology stuff.
Yeah. I did not look up or really do anything with the astrology stuff. It sounded right. I don't know, whatever.
It sounded like a thing, like a thing that would happen. Sure.
Yeah, but it becomes increasingly pretty clear that basically he like predicts the deaths of people that are going to get murdered, and that's how he can be so accurate with his predictions.
Yeah, it's like Federico tells him, okay, this guy's gonna die at this point in time on this day. I'm having him murdered. It's like, oh, this guy will die on this day at this time in this way.
Right, and it's like, oh wow, and then it happened. Interesting.
Yep.
Giuliano is very suspicious of astrology, given that he did, however, just technically get some, like, what could be considered pretty solid proof that it works, but his suspicions are valid.
Yeah.
The doctor confirms that we are in the late 15th century in the Mediterranean, which he describes as not a very pleasant time.
Which, in this specific reference, I think might be fair, because I think this might be around I'm not sure the exact dates of the Italian wars, but I wouldn't want to be caught in the middle of them.
I mean, we're also not sure of the exact dates of this serial.
True. That's why it's a maybe for me.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It may be valid.
Yeah. And I don't know, kind of depends, like, exactly where you are when. Like, I don't know, if you're in Florence and Savonarola's running around, that's not so fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I'll take that. It's, I don't know, maybe not the most pleasant. The plague still every now and then pops up again.
Oh, yeah.
Mixed bag. Sarah goes running off because she sees some oranges that look awesome and is then captured by mysterious hooded figures. The doctor fights them and is initially successful, and then they hit him over the head with a rock.
Yep. It's a running trend. One of the few character traits that pretty much every companion has in common is a pathological inability to listen when the doctor tells them not to wander off.
Right.
Because they will all do that all the time.
Right. Just none of them will ever. Back in the very first episode or serial that we watched, the companion there, Vicky, she didn't want to wander off, and then she still got bullied into wandering off by the other companion.
Yes.
So she's gone, and then as he comes to, he sees this, like, thing that kind of looks like a shuttlecock that's made of light.
Sure.
It causes some explosions.
It's a floaty glowy thing. It's red, so you know it's evil.
Yeah, it's a floaty glowing thing, and it causes some explosions, and it kills a peasant, because peasants are very disposable.
Yep, why not?
And the Doctor does realize at this point that it is Mandragora energy that must have stowed away in the TARDIS.
That makes sense. Sure, we'll go with it.
Yeah, sure.
This thing did fly at him and Sarah Jane earlier, and they, like, tried to duck around behind the TARDIS to avoid it, but instead it just went in because they left the door open.
That's why you never leave the door open.
Yeah, it's not the best move.
You get Mandragora energy, you get, I don't know, raccoons, like I said. Don't leave the door open.
Yep.
You get, like, an extra cat, I don't know.
I think the Doctor wouldn't mind a cat, maybe, but...
Yeah, I think he'd like a cat. Carmen, you want to go on the TARDIS? Good job, Carmen. You never meow when it's helpful and would like a response to a question. Hieronymus then foretells Giuliano's death, which, like, is really, I feel like, adding to the suspiciousness.
Yeah, no, that's like... Okay, so Federico tells Hieronymus, it's like, okay, you're gonna predict Giuliano's death, and Hieronymus is like, I think he's already a little suspicious, my dude.
Right. Like, this is not a good idea as a plan. Like, if you're gonna secretly kill him, just secretly kill him. If you say you are going to die in 10 days' time, according to the heavens, then he's just gonna be, like, really on alert for the next 10 days to make sure that nobody murders him.
Right.
So I don't understand what the point of that is, but be that as it may. The Doctor then gets captured by some guards, and Sarah Jane is going to be sacrificed to a god named Demnos, who seems like a real cool, fun dude.
Yeah.
The Doctor gets brought before Federico and tries to explain the dangers of the Mandragora helix, which he initially does by, like, saying a bunch of things that I find utterly incomprehensible as a 21st century non-scientist.
Yeah, no, the Doctor has... It's a fairly consistent flaw that the Doctor has trouble, like, explaining things in terms that people will understand.
Right.
Yeah.
And at some point later, he's, like, blaming medieval vocabulary. And I'm like, I don't even think medieval vocabulary is the problem. Like, I don't think in the 21st century we have vocabulary that an ordinary person would understand.
Certainly
that
not.
Would describe this.
No.
I don't know. Honestly, at some point, he's basically like, it's a fire demon from the stars. And I'm like, yeah, actually, that's close enough.
Yeah, that's a good enough explanation.
Yeah.
Like, that's more likely to satisfy anyone in this area, except for Giuliano, who's inexplicably an atheist.
Right, of course, because we always have to have our one sympathetic medieval person who's actually an atheist.
Right.
Federico decides, based on nothing, to execute the Doctor, because why the fuck not? And we end the first episode with Sarah Jane about to be sacrificed and the Doctor about to be executed. I have to just comment on the fact that the executioner is wearing a, like, sleeveless leather outfit, which, like, looks like he's, like, going to, like, a very particular kind of club.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it's basically Tobias's leather daddy outfit from that from that Arrested Development bit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know the one. Oh, boy.
Right? Like, it's a weird choice as a look.
It's a little strange. I mean, like, I get like the hooded executioner trope, but the rest of the costume is...
I just want him to have sleeves. That's really all I want.
Yeah.
I feel like it would seem 100 times more normal if he just had sleeves.
I can also see, like, you wouldn't want sleeves to get messy, but that's pure speculation on my part. It's like, oh no, I got blood on this sleeve. I liked this jacket. Now I have to throw it out. Can't get those stains out.
Now I'm like, well, if you just had, like, black leather, how easy is it to just wipe the blood off?
That's also true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I've gotten blood on black leather before, so I don't have a lot of personal explanations. So if anybody has, please weigh in. Then in the beginning of the next episode, the Doctor manages to escape with his iconic scarf.
Yeah, he uses it to, like, trip up the guards and knock down the executioner and steal a bunch of horses.
He runs off. He manages to hide in the marketplace. The guards have hilariously, intensely English accents.
Yes.
And it's very much like, wait, I'm sorry, we're in Italy.
I mean,
sure.
But to be fair, I think I would rather have, like, these English actors who are, like, speaking, like, what is understood to be, like, translated into English. Like,
yeah.
They even explain that later, sort of. I'd rather have them speaking with, like, their normal accents than, like, being like, hey, where did the Doctor go?
Yeah, that's true. I recently watched Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which will be an episode coming out before
Oh,
this one.
fun.
And yeah, I think it was ultimately a good choice to just not have Kevin Costner do an accent. Like, on the one hand, it's like, why is there this American there? But on the other hand, Kevin Costner doing a British accent for 2.5 hours would have been a lot.
It's like how in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang they had Dick Van Dyke do like just his normal American accent, even though it's set in Edwardian England. Because the last
Right.
time he was in a movie set in Edwardian England, we got the Bert voice from Mary Poppins.
Right?
So
Which I think I once did something very close to, and when a British friend of mine asked me to like try doing a British accent, and she then said I sounded like a crazy person. So
yep, it's not a good accent. Like they hired a voice coach for Dick Van Dyke, but the voice coach was Canadian and didn't know what he was doing. Clearly,
oof, yeah, not successful. So the Doctor escapes, and he ends up following this purple-robed gentleman through the catacombs, and he then rescues Sarah from being sacrificed. In what is a manner that I find hysterical. That first of all, she's just sort of like lying there and is not struggling as much as I feel like she ought to. But then also, I guess everybody is just very like relaxed because he then just like pulls her quietly off, and I'm like, can they not see through those weird masks? Like, how do they not notice this?
yeah. I think I had to rewatch that scene because I wasn't sure what was happening the first time around.
He just like pulls her forward and like off the altar, basically, right?
Yep, more or less. Maybe there's like
And they just don't notice.
maybe they've got like some powerful incense going that's got everyone like in a haze, a little loopy.
Maybe.
I mean, it explained why they're not doing anything. It explained why she's not doing anything.
Yeah, that's I think a good explanation. He's managed to get her away, but the Demnos worshippers are still pretty excited because the Mandragora energy enters the temple and like infuses the altar,
Yep.
which they think is very much a good thing.
Yeah. It's like oh, our crazy rituals have awakened power. That's what we were trying to do. Way to
I mean,
go.
that makes sense that if you're like doing all these weird rituals and then like a weird ball of light infuses your special rock, that you think that this is related to your rituals and that like that is your god on the altar.
Yeah. I can definitely see the chain of logic there.
Yeah. The Doctor describes these the worshippers of Demnos as being a particularly nasty Roman sect that was supposed to have died out in the 3rd century. To which Sarah responds, "I thought this was the 15th."
And I looked up. I did just some cursory research. Demnos is not a real thing. It's fictional.
No, Demnos is nothing.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, Demnos is nothing in either the 3rd century or the 15th.
for the plot of the episode, it's fine. This is fine.
Yeah. Although, fun fact, there's some video game that I don't remember the name of where you have to find something called the Staff of Demnos, which I assume they just pulled from this.
Probably. I would not be surprised one bit. I've seen but that's not. I'm not even sure if that was a real reference or not. There's a video game. It's like a private eye superhero thing. But the villain is the mummy of the Egyptian pharaoh Sutek, and I'm not sure if Sutek is real, but Sutek is the villain of a Doctor Who episode.
So it might just be some additional adaptations. There's other points later in this serial where I think there might have been some influence from Doctor Who on other pieces of media.
Yes, quite possibly.
Which we'll get to. The altar's glowing. The worshippers of Demnos are very stoked. The Mandragora energy tells the High Priest that like this is his special spot that no other mortal can stand in, and that he gets to carry out the will of Mandragora on Earth. And so that's very exciting.
Yes.
We also learn that the High Priest of Demnos is really the astrologer Hieronymus.
A plot twist no one saw coming, I'm sure.
I'm sure, yeah. The Doctor and Sarah get captured, and they are taken now to, we have, like, good cop, bad cop in this Italian duchy, so now they get taken to the good cop, to Giuliano.
Yep.
And his, quote, companion, Marco,
Yes.
Like, they're sleeping together, right?
Oh,
like...
absolutely. There is no question that is what is happening.
Like, that's clearly a romantic and sexual relationship.
This is as like blatantly gay as the BBC in 1976 could possibly get.
Right. Or for that matter, as you could probably get in the 15th century. Well, man, that's actually maybe not true. You could actually probably be slightly more blatantly gay than this in the 15th century.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so he has his companion, Marco, and the two of them meet the Doctor and explain this conflict between him and his uncle, which includes that he is concerned that his uncle would suppress knowledge and learning because he's a bad medieval and Giuliano's a good Renaissance man.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That said, Federico is a dick, and I would much rather have Giuliano be in charge.
Oh, yeah, no, of course, because Federico's an asshole. The Doctor examines the body of this dead guy, who is blue, in another Arrested Development reference. I guess he just blew himself. And finds that he has helix energy remnants.
Yeah.
Which he again attempts to explain to Giuliano with relatively little success.
Yeah. Like, Giuliano's like, the guards are saying that it was a fire demon, which I don't believe, because I don't believe in demons. And like, the Doctor's explanation, like, a fire demon is, like, the closest that is, like, closer to the actual truth than anything the Doctor manages to convey.
Right. I mean...
It's a malevolent... It's a malevolent intelligence.
It's a malevolent alien.
Yeah,
essentially.
It's a malevolent intelligent force that uses fire to kill people. That's fire demon's as close as you need at that point. Fire demon is close enough,
yeah. Yeah, like, it really gets the point across.
Yeah.
Fire demon from outer space, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Federico is very grumpy while they're awaiting. It seems that there's a whole group of just random Italian rulers who are planning to just show up to celebrate Giuliano's accession to the dukedom.
Yeah.
Federico is very grumpy about this and is also increasingly in conflict with Hieronymus, who is very full of himself now that he's gotten Mandragora energy into him.
I thought like nobility traveling to visit other rulers for their coronations was a thing that happened.
It is. I just find it odd. I guess I find it odd because we don't actually know who this person is, right? Or how important or large this dukedom is.
That's fair. It's
Yeah, and so with that in my head, because I haven't heard of it, I wanted to think of it as relatively small and not that important, because if it was important, I would have heard of it.
Right.
And then that makes me think, like, wait, why does, like, the Doge of Venice give a shit?
Yeah, it's like, it's a generic Italian locale.
Yes.
I mean, I understand, like, not wanting to use actual characters in the middle of this.
Right.
So I understand why they went the route they did. So but.
The Doctor is, again, trying to sort of figure out what's going on. He describes the 15th century as a period between the dark ages of superstition and the dawn of a new reason.
Yeah.
And I groaned.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. I was having a rough time.
I groaned too. I was like, Doctor, you're better than this.
Seriously.
I would expect this kind of, like, blatant misinformation from, like, Stephen or even Sarah Jane, but not you.
Yeah. Like, haven't you read anything? Like, don't you know? Like, You've been in these
there.
periods.
You've visited these places before, these time periods.
Like, you should know better.
Yeah.
But he repeatedly continues to perpetuate myths about the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, particularly this myth, which I have many thoughts about that I will discuss in more detail later. He says that since the helix energy has penetrated all of the stones in the temple and all that, they should just destroy it to keep that from hurting other people, and goes into the temple to kind of try and, figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, Giuliano is talking to Sarah, and he's like, I have a theory that the world is really a sphere. It can't possibly be flat. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, it's bad. It's like Giuliano, they're telling us you're smart, but.
I will provide more details on this later. But for anyone who does not happen to be aware of this, the fact that people in the Middle Ages believed the Earth was flat is a myth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm very annoyed. I'm extremely annoyed. So the uncle's guards come, and maybe they'll kill him so he can stop saying dumb shit. But Sarah Jane goes after the doctor and ends up finding some creepy priests. Hooray, more creepy priests.
Yep.
We begin the next episode. Sadly, the guards do not kill Giuliano, so he can continue to say dumb shit.
Yeah, the doctor must have passed Sarah Jane in the catacombs somewhere, because he comes running out with a sword of his own to like help Giuliano fight off all these guards.
The catacombs are very winding, I guess, and I guess there's a lot of different tunnels and points to go in and out.
I can certainly see that. Yeah, it's
yeah.
They make reference to like, it's a maze down there. No one knows where anything is, and if we try and if we try and search for someone down there, like, we'll never find them.
Right. The Doctor also has a little encounter first with the Mandragora helix, which I guess can like get into your head. I
guess. I think it's like something telepathy, something. I don't know how else. I suppose I don't know how else it would talk, because it doesn't have a mouth.
Right. So it has this weird, like, or like eventually, it like possesses people, but I guess now it just has like mean telepathy. Mm-hmm. It also gives him these cool hallucinations of a Roman villa in the temple, so that's fun.
That was actually a pretty cool visual effect for 1976.
Yeah, right? Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Good job. The Doctor does, however, eventually make it out and is fighting against the assorted guards.
There's a great line where like the guards are ganging up on Giuliano, which good on them for not doing that thing of going in one at a time to get defeated individually.
Right.
But they're ganging up on Giuliano, and Giuliano's like holding his own pretty well, and Federico's like, he's only one man, and then the Doctor comes running in with a sword of his own, and he's like, you can't count.
Which is good.
It's a good line.
It would not be... And it would still almost work in Italian. It wouldn't be quite as good in Italian, but it would almost work in Italian.
Yeah.
Like, it would be like quantare quante, I think.
Close enough.
Yeah, not too bad. But it's very good in English.
Multilingual puns.
Yes. The Demnos priests end up coming and helping out Giuliano, and that allows him to escape. And he ends up going into the catacombs, and is surprised that the Doctor knows what he's doing with the sword, which the Doctor responds to this by saying, like, oh yeah, I learned some tricks from Cleopatra's bodyguard. And it's every now and then these moments where I'm like, you're not even gonna, like, try to pretend that you're sort of a normal person, are you?
Nope. He has a hobby of name dropping. There is an interesting thing I'll note later with regards to his name dropping, but I will note it when we get to it, because there is a historical figure that we never get to see, but who is mentioned.
Yes.
So.
An omnipresent yet absent individual.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Sarah has been taken captive by Hieronymus, who plans to then use her against the Doctor. And Federico is now grumpy since the Duke of Milan has arrived and the Doge is going to be there within the hour. And he's like, oh, tell them I'm sick with an ague.
An ague.
Ague. I can never pronounce that word.
It's fun to watch you try.
Yeah. Tell him I'm sick with an ague. And I do like the idea that, like, playing sick is a like, universe to avoid obligations is a universal.
Yes. In that moment alone, I'm like, all right, Federico, I feel this. I understand you.
It's like, yeah, I get it, buddy. Hieronymus is supposed to be killing Giuliano for Federico, but increasingly seems to be into his own plans, which includes that he's recognizing that the Doctor is a threat.
Mm-hmm.
So he hypnotizes Sarah, who he has with him, with, this item is this, like, weird little, like, faux Swarovski crystal bauble that looks like the kind of shit that you would buy at, like, a gift kiosk in Rome.
It looks pretty, but I don't know how well it would work as a... And he's not even doing the, like, swaying back and forth. It's just like, you know, like, you twist up the chain and you let it... And then you let it go, and then he's just holding that in front of her face.
Right. And it also it looks like it cost $6. Like, if somebody told me that was like a prize for winning a bunch of tickets at Chuck E. Cheese, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, it looks awful.
Yeah.
Like, it's sparkly, but, like, it looks extremely cheap.
Yep.
He hypnotizes her and to basically tell her that now you're on our side and you're going to kill the doctor when you next return to him with this poisoned needle that I'm giving you.
Yep.
Federico is increasingly anxious about the fact that they still don't know where Giuliano is, and comes up with the plot that he is going to prove that Giuliano is a secret devotee of the cult of Demnos as a way to undermine him and get him kicked off so that he can rule entirely on his own. He uses a lot of very colorful similes and metaphors. Like in this scene, he describes Giuliano as harder to find than a flea in a beggar's robes, and then says he must come out or die like a sewer rat, which I'm pretty sure is like the second time he's compared someone to a sewer rat.
Yeah, he should write poetry.
Yeah. Like maybe if he just chilled and wrote some poems, he'd be much happier. Instead of murdering people.
Yeah.
I'm sure his nephew would support him if he wanted to hang out at court and write
for sure.
poetry. Yeah, I should have just done that. The doctor is increasingly worried that the Mandragora intelligence chose this particular place to go very deliberately. They then find Sarah, who seems, I think, very normal. She does ask the question of how she suddenly understands all these languages. Okay, actually, does that seem weird? Did that seem weird to you?
So I think it's a reasonable question. I think the weirdness comes in the fact that she has been traveling with the doctor for over 3 seasons and like only now is thinking to ask this.
Right.
I think that's what tips the doctor off. It's like it's a reasonable question, but you didn't ask it sooner? That's a little weird.
Right. Whereas I'm watching this, and because I haven't seen that much else, I'm just like, yeah, that is a good question. And also I'm like, yeah, maybe it's to like remind the audience of how this works, but then he doesn't actually tell her how it works, really, so. That's
true. Yeah. His literal words in that moment are, I'll explain later, but...
Right.
Which
yeah.
they are running around the catacombs trying to flee from these cultists, so like that's a fair thing to say, I think, at that point.
True. But yes, but I when she asked the question, I was like, yeah, good point. Because that's always the question I want to know in like time travel stuff is how do they speak the same language?
Yeah. I mean, he later clarifies that it is like a function of the TARDIS, so.
Right. But yes, but I was like, I want to know. Please tell me more. Marco gets taken captive by Federico et al., and Federico and Hieronymus have a little confrontation where Federico says that Hieronymus is really a fraud, and Hieronymus, who at this point is, I guess, like less of a fraud because he's got his whole Mandragora situation, tells him that he is in grave danger. To which Federico says, you can no more tell the stars than you can tell my chamber pot, which, again, very colorful language.
Yeah, Federico, more than anyone else, I think, has reason to be skeptical of Hieronymus because, like, all of Hieronymus's death predictions to this point have been done at Federico's behest. So
right, he knows that the predictions are bullshit because he's the one who told him to make them and then murder
exactly.
people. So he obviously has every reason to think that he is in fact a fraud, and he presumably was, but now he has these like real powers increasingly by virtue of the Mandragora helix energy situation embodying him. Then he actually tells the guard that he should go and find Hieronymus and kick him out of the city, to which it is one of those things where it's like, why not just kill him?
Yeah, I mean, he
murdered like 10 fucking people.
Why let this guy go?
Right. You're like in the middle of torturing a dude.
This guy who knows what your deal is.
Yes, just kill. Don't banish him. Murder him.
Yeah.
Anyway, but whatever. So, he doesn't successfully do any of those things. So
true.
I guess it doesn't matter.
He manages to capture everyone but Hieronymus.
Right, because Hieronymus has a magical fire demon from space.
Uh-huh.
So they're torturing Marco, and basically with the idea that he'll then, as Giuliano's buddy, confess that really he's a follower of Demnos.
And props to the makeup people, because Marco looks really bad in this scene. Like,
he does.
He looks ill.
Which is funny, because then when when things like eventually will, go back to normal, spoiler alert, or at least, they've like solved that particular problem at least, he looks 100% totally fine and normal.
Yep.
It's like, oh wow, you really like snapped back pretty fast from that being tortured.
Got a long rest in there, and
yeah, but
back to full
he's
hit
not
points.
Good in this scene.
No, he does not.
The doctor confronts Hieronymus, who asks, "Were you sent from the stars?" To which he responds, "You could say that, yes."
Yeah. It's not wrong. It really isn't.
Yeah. No. Again, it's like, yeah, no, close enough. Actually, that's fair.
Yeah.
Sarah goes into her hypnosis murder mode. This hypnosis apparently fucking sucks, which honestly, should we be surprised? Because, like, the doctor is basically just like, Sarah, we're friends. And then she's like, oh yeah, wow, I'm sorry.
He's like, Sarah, you're my best friend. Stop. She, like, goes to stab him with the needle, but he, like, catches her wrist, and he's got a pretty strong grip.
Yeah, so he stops her, but then he also, like, it's that he snaps her out of the hypnosis so quickly that I'm like, this is not good hypnosis.
I mean, with the $6 little crystal thing, like, what did you expect?
Yeah. You get what you pay for.
You do.
And this is where he explains that he actually knew all along because he was tipped off by the language question.
Yeah.
Federico's guards then capture Giuliano, the doctor, and Sarah. He does the whole thing where he explains to everybody exactly what his plot is, like villains always do.
Yep.
At which point, the guards then come in and say that, something's weird happening over at the temple. And the doctor convinces him that the two of them should go together to see what's happening in the temple. So what's happening is that Hieronymus does not have a face anymore.
Yeah. So they go into the temple and Hieronymus and his cultists are like absorbing energy from the altar.
Yes.
And there's some pretty cool visual effects going on there.
Yeah. I actually thought it was pretty well done for the 70s.
Yeah, and the doctor and Federico and a couple guards come in. Federico's like, Hieronymus, stop this nonsense. And he walks up to Hieronymus and rips the mask off his face, and he has no face. It's just this, like, glowing blank there.
And at some point, somebody's like, give it like a punning, and he's like, he gave him a blank look.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a good pun for the audience, but the person you're speaking to has no idea what you mean by that.
Yeah.
But it is like, it's pretty good effects. It's pretty creepy.
That's the part 3 cliffhanger.
Right. Yes. And I can't remember exactly where this is, if it's right at the end of 3 or the beginning of 4 or
It's at the end of 3 and then like repeats at the beginning of 4 because like
right.
as the tiny little recap for those of you who had to wait a week between episodes in the original airing.
Right, that it always basically replays the last like minute of the previous episode, essentially. In addition to having his face not be a face anymore, Hieronymus has force lightning now.
Yep.
Like 100% straight on Palpatine force lightning.
Yes.
So I guess George Lucas watched Doctor Who because it is exactly the same.
Yep, and this predates Return of the Jedi by 7 years.
Yep, 76 to 83. So, wonder where you got that. It really is like, it's exactly the same visual.
Yes.
We then do see the priests of Demnos circle around the altar, intoning something about how all their earthly enemies are going to perish. They also are like, Demnos all along is just a servant of Mandragora. So we've just ditched Demnos, I guess, which is good because I keep going back and forth between whether I say Demnos or Denmos. So, now we can just say Mandragora. So that he's really just a servant of Mandragora, who is the master of all things and will swallow the moon.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, Federico's been gone an hour. And the guard's like, well, once he was gone an hour, I'm supposed to just kill everybody. So he's like about to do that, conveniently ignoring the fact that if Federico is dead, he has no authority to do anything.
Yeah, which everyone points out to him.
Right, everybody's like, dude, if Federico's fine, like he was gonna be like, if Federico's not dead, he's gonna be back in 15 minutes, and he might not want you to actually kill us, or he's dead, in which case, like, what the fuck is your plan then?
Yeah, Giuliano is the legitimate authority figure anyway.
Well, right, yeah, I mean, there's, like, that problem, but it's like, you're not even working on behalf of a, like, viable claimant. I mean, I don't know, with, in America, we just had a fucking, like, attempted coup yesterday, or 2 days ago, so, like, whatever, but...
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't be that worried about legitimacy, I don't know.
Yeah.
America.
Italy.
Yes, Italy. The doctor returns and lets him know that Federico is in fact dead. Based on this, Giuliano does in fact basically talk everybody except for Federico's main dude into like, you should probably just side with me now because like Federico's dead. So like, what the fuck is your plan at this point?
Yep.
Marco's like, great, this is fantastic. Everybody's fixed. The doctor's like, no, we still have like an evil cult with a magic fire demon.
Yeah.
Maybe we should worry about that.
Yep.
They make a plan to barricade the fortress. But then Marco and Giuliano are like, should we still have a party?
Yeah.
Probably still have a party.
We've still got these important people here. Like,
we should just have a party.
The ball was already planned, and the question is whether they should call it off.
Right. And I think Marco has this very, like, Machiavellian, if you call it off, then you will seem weak, therefore you should still have it. Which, given what ends up happening at the ball, I feel like actually he probably should have called it off, but whatever, well, I guess.
And the doctor was in favor of it because it gives him the perfect distraction, frankly, for his own plan.
Exactly. The doctor, meanwhile, he's messing around with an astrolabe. Hooray for astrolabe representation.
Yes.
He figures out that swallow the moon refers to a lunar eclipse, and that's going to allow them to do something.
Yeah.
And realizes that if they don't stop Mandragora, this could be the only science. The doctor is thrilled about the idea of the party as being the perfect distraction and asks for wire, which he's like, wire? They've had wire for at least 150 years. We're good. And an armored breastplate. He also tries on an extremely intense and large lion mask, which I would love to have in my house.
It's a good mask.
And explains that his plan is that he's going to drain off the helix energy into his body, like using this stuff as a conductor. I don't know.
I think so. I think his theory is that like the basic energy is essentially electricity, so he's just gonna like try and ground it out.
Right.
If he disperses the energy, then Hieronymus won't have anything to draw on.
Right. So I don't know if the science works here, but we'll just say it does, whatever.
I mean, he's definitely shooting lightning out of his fingers, so there's something electrical going on.
Yeah. And, you know, Palpatine's Force lightning has its limits.
Yeah.
As we learn in the truly terrible movie, which I watched recently, Return of the Sith.
Yes.
Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith.
What is that movie fucking called? Revenge of the Sith.
Yes.
I'm doing great today.
Carmen made a good life decision not watching that.
Yeah, Carmen just joined for the end when we got to like watch Anakin suffer in the fire.
Yes.
Oh god, that movie is very bad. We started the party. The party is so fucking awkward. We have all of the Demnos Mandragora guys are just like circled around creepily outside. There's a jester kind of cavorting, and everybody is just utterly fucking silent. And at some point they like start dancing, and then everybody's kind of like awkward and whispering. And it's clear that everybody like knows there's something real weird going on.
And it's also clear that they did not pay any of these extras to do any lines.
That too. One of them has to dance with Sarah, but I don't think he even speaks.
Nope.
He just sort of bows.
Yeah. The jester's performance, though, like, he's doing some pretty impressive, like, fire eating and fire juggling and flips, and this guy's talented.
A, the actor is clearly very talented. B, in universe, props to this jester for carrying on a flawless performance while in the middle of what is clearly the most uncomfortable party ever held.
Yeah.
Honestly, good for him.
Good for him.
The doctor goes down to the altar and is playing with a yo-yo.
Mm-hmm.
Hieronymus comes in, furious that he has profaned the sacred stone. At which point, so Hieronymus is, I guess, just really Mandragora at this point, or possessed by Mandragora.
Pretty much, yeah.
And he explains that I don't know Mandragora's gender, had to take over the Earth, since if they don't do that now, then humans' curiosity is going to lead them, I guess, to intergalactic travel, which, I mean, honestly, you got some time on that, though.
Yeah. I also find this repeated, like, viewing, like, oh, humans will get interstellar travel and they'll be, like, a major power, and it's like, okay, but this is also, like, a cosmos that already has Time Lords and Daleks. So are humans really the ones to worry about?
Yeah, and what are they called? The potato people?
Sontarans?
Yes, thank you. Like, there's a lot of beings who have the capability for intergalactic travel.
True, but like, I don't think the humans or the Sontarans are on quite the level of the Time Lords.
No, but I just mean that, like, why worry about the humans when clearly they're not the only ones and not even necessarily the most advanced one. Like, they're not even the ones who are closest to being a threat at that point.
Exactly.
So he, for some reason, is particularly worried about the humans and wants to go back to the 15th century to ruin science so that they don't develop intergalactic spaceships.
All right.
Yep. The Doctor explains that as a Time Lord, he, personally and professionally is not here for that, and is then repeatedly Force lightninged, which, again, is exactly what it is.
I think his plan is like, it hurts him, but it doesn't kill him because it's hitting the breastplate.
Right.
It's hitting the breastplate, and then it's going down the wire into the ground and dispersing. So
yes. So it's, I guess,
as far as like a real science thing goes, that's like more real science than most of the Doctor's plans.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And I'm also assuming that, like, even with that, if he'd actually been a human, that might have been a more dangerous endeavor, maybe, than
That's
it
true.
is for a Time Lord.
Yeah, he's got a pretty high constitution score.
Right.
He can power through a lot.
Yeah, so that was my assumption, is another person couldn't have probably pulled that off.
Worst case scenario, he's regenerating into Peter Davison several seasons early.
Right, exactly. He'll be fine. That too, right? It's like he can't really die, so, like, you know, the stakes are basically like, either I succeed or I don't succeed, but regardless, I'm not, like, actually dead.
There are situations where he can die permanently, but this isn't one of them.
Okay. At the party, Sarah thinks that the Doctor has gotten there because she sees somebody with the lion mask, but it turns out that it is a trap, and that is one of the Brethren who's got this fucking mask. And there's more of the Brethren who reveal themselves, and one's got a real creepy, like, round mask, which is horrifying, but very well done.
Very well done.
Like, in general, like, the mask game, because there's also, like, the masks that the Demnots people are wearing earlier. Like, there's a good mask game.
Yeah. And the masks of the people at the party in general. And
yeah, like, they're solid.
Like, they're good masks.
Yeah. The Brethren have arrived, and they Force lightning, just straight up murder, like, I don't know, 15, 20 people, like most of the extras.
Mm-hmm. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Not all of them. Yeah, like, I would say probably, like, half the people who are in the room, basically.
Yeah.
Which, like, as by the way, like, this is, like, his plan, that the party is, like, a distraction. I guess it's just that he thought that it was, like, acceptable to risk killing, like, I don't know, 10 plus people.
Yeah. Well, I think he thought that maybe he'd manage to stop Hieronymus quicker.
Right. So he didn't, and a lot of people die. We then see the purple-robed Hieronymus saying that they have to bring the survivors down to be sacrificed in the temple. At which point the priests are instructed to touch the altar, and then I guess because that's what's happened with all the lightning, they all fall down dead. Hieronymus, I was doing quotes that nobody can see because this is not a visual medium.
Yep.
Hieronymus takes off his mask and his robe and reveals that in fact it was the Doctor all along, doing a very good Hieronymus/Palpatine impersonation.
Yep. Because apparently he managed to defeat Hieronymus with the whole energy siphoning thing, and then somehow fried the rest of them. I'm not exactly sure how, but it...
I guess, like, made the electricity go into the raw... I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm fussy on the science, and I don't know if that's the show or that's me or both.
I'm not clear either, really.
Yeah. They're all dead. The Doctor reveals that it's really him, not Hieronymus, and continues to, like, demonstrate how good he is with the impression by asking for a salami sandwich.
I would not say no to a salami sandwich.
Where can you get a salami sandwich?
It's
not from a Jedi.
It's such a good... It's a fun line delivery.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
Giuliano and Marco and Sarah Jane are all, like, cheering, like, yay, we did it. There's lots of people dead, but we did it.
Yeah.
At least we're not all dead.
None of the people we've heard of. But it does raise the question, like, did they just kill, like, the fucking, like, Doge of Venice or something?
Yeah. The Duke of Milan is just dead now.
Yeah. And so among the because they talk a lot about the group of people who had gathered and the fact that it includes all of these political luminaries and also that Da Vinci is going to be there because he was coming along with his patron, the Duke of Milan.
And the doctor is like, hey, after we get these cultists sorted out, I'd like to meet Leonardo. I'd like to meet Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of the doctor's name-dropping game, this is one that I'd like to note because Da Vinci also comes up in a later Fourth Doctor serial called City of Death, which is from 1979, which the main plot like is set in present-day Paris, and it surrounds the plot surrounds a theft of the Mona Lisa from the Louvre. And so at one point, the Doctor goes back to Da Vinci's workshop to visit his old friend Leonardo, because apparently he's actually met Leonardo by that point. But when he goes there, Leonardo is not in. So the Doctor's like, oh, well, he's not here. I guess I'll just grab the thing I need and go. So that's 2 for 2 on episodes that mention visiting Leonardo, but we don't actually get to see Da Vinci.
Right. But so for this, he's, it's too bad that I missed chatting with Da Vinci. But then it's like, well, I've looked at his submarine designs and they're pretty mediocre. So I guess it's fine that we never got a chance to chat.
Yeah. And also, as a parting gift, Giuliano gives the Doctor a whole salami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a great gift.
It is.
I'd love a salami.
I would not say no to a salami.
Yeah. As they leave, Giuliano seems very sad to see them go because he wanted the Doctor to stay in science with him. But, he reflects that the Constellation is going to be in the right position to try again in another 500 years at the end of the 20th century. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe that explains something. I don't know. Well,
they do actually revisit that. So in the Time Warrior episode, I mentioned that after her time, on the show proper, Sarah Jane, is the main character of multiple spin-offs through the years. Mm-hmm. So there is a story arc in one of her spin-offs that, directly deals with the Mandragora attempting again in the late 20th century. Mm-hmm. And so she deals with that.
Mm. I mean, I do have to say, though, if somebody told me that we should be blaming the anti-mask movement on the successful arrival of the Mandragora Helix, I'd be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Maybe he was just except let's try America this time.
Mandragora Helix, seems to have a thing for masks, though.
That's true.
It's in the name of the serial.
True. That's true. That's true. And maybe we've got a lot of cool masks throughout, as discussed. Mm-hmm. That is how the episode ends. Oh, and actually it is with Sarah Jane when the Doctor says something like, the 20th, that was a great century. And she's like, was?
Yeah. What do you mean, was?
Yeah. Because she comes from, the 70s, right?
She comes from... It's a little fuzzy exactly what year she comes from. I believe it's supposed to be, 1980 or something.
Yeah.
So, the very near future of what was then the present.
Yeah.
So.
She is taken aback, which is fair.
Yeah. I would be too. The Doctor's probably just thinking of, oh, but I've visited, the 21st and the 52nd, and so...
Right, yeah. There's nothing in particular about, the 20th century, really.
Yeah. He does spend a lot of time there, though.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because it seems familiar.
Surely it has nothing to do with the BBC's budget.
No, it couldn't possibly be. There were a lot of historical claims or implications in this serial. So in the next segment, the Vera et Falso, we can discuss some of what they got right and what they got wrong, with saving some of the biggest issues for the following segment, the Historia et Veritas. I'm going to start with some things that they did a pretty good job on. Oranges. We begin with Sarah enjoying some nice oranges. Mm-hmm. Sweet oranges were brought to the Mediterranean from China by Portuguese and Italian merchants in the late 15th, early 16th century, which in the grand scheme of things, I'll say close enough.
Yeah.
That this duchy's got some oranges. That's fine. I'll allow it.
It's maybe, a little early, but, the exact year isn't nailed down or anything, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'll allow that one. Rugs. We see in the as my cat eats my hair.
Yeah.
Hi, Carm.
Hi, Carmen.
Okay, we're gonna not do that. Rugs. We see some Turkish-style woven rugs that the Doctor hides behind in the marketplace. Rugs of this style were described as being really great rugs by Marco Polo, and by the beginning of the 14th century at the latest, and very possibly earlier, they are being exported to and sold in European markets, and even become a popular feature in Italian paintings of the 14th century onward. For an example from actually an English context, which might be familiar to people, there is a very prominently depicted Turkish-style rug in the Hans Holbein painting, The Ambassadors. There's like a big...
Not one I can
the
call
one
to
with
mind.
like the skull. That's the one with like the skull, but that it's like you have to be at the right angle to see it as a skull.
I'm looking this up.
It's an interesting painting, but anyway, it very prominently has one of these rugs, and there are a lot of paintings that have very prominent Turkish rugs.
Oh, this one. Yes. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be when it's not a skull.
It either looks like nothing or it looks like a skull.
Yeah.
It's not like it looks like something else.
No,
but
it's
that
just...
it only is like visibly a skull that like makes sense from a certain angle.
Yeah, otherwise it's just a thing.
But whether you can see the skull or not, you can see the very nice Turkish rug.
Yes.
So, it works that that this marketplace has these rugs. I think they probably would have been somewhat better guarded than they seem to be, since they were very expensive, and somebody might have been like, who's this dude, and why is he hiding behind my very expensive wares that I'm selling in this marketplace? But, again, like that would involve hiring a whole different extra, that's too much. The marketplace in general, I'll just say, I blame this on the lack of hiring extras, but it is deserted in a way that is bizarre for what is, I assume, supposed to be a major city.
Maybe Federico killed off all the customers.
Right. Yeah, Federico's like, oh, is there also an urban revolt? I guess I'll just kill everybody in the marketplace.
Yeah.
The Roman villa hallucinations, I think they do a pretty solid job. They're clearly Roman. They sort of look like a Roman villa. Mm-hmm. I would wonder if they're sort of modeled off the Pompeii villa decorations.
I could see it.
Look kind of similar to that.
Yeah.
But, so not bad. The ague, also, that a 15th century person would indeed use this term to refer to an illness marked by a fever. I can't say how often they would have faked an ague to get out of obligations, but, it seems fair.
I would.
That's a universal thing. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
It's, equivalent now to somebody saying, I don't know, I just, I don't feel well, I really, I think I have a fever and I'm really sniffly, I mean, if you did that now, they'd be like, you do have COVID, but, then that would be a whole different thing. But
right.
Anyway. They also do a good job on the astrolabe, that the astrolabe is what you indeed would use to make various kinds of astronomical measurements during this period. We don't really see the astrolabe very well, I assume because they don't have an astrolabe, and so what we probably basically see is a piece of cardboard, but,
yeah. Doctor Who has never been known for its budget. At least not classic Doctor Who, for sure.
Right.
It's a step up from the time meddlers brawl in what is clearly a soundstage.
Right, yeah. So, and overall, as we were mentioning before, the costumes are not bad.
The costumes are recycled from the 1960s Romeo and Juliet movie.
I mean, which probably explains why
they're
not bad.
Yeah. Good on them for reusing those.
Yeah, no, they're pretty good. They did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and the fact that they could then reuse these costumes means that the costumes do actually, in fact, look, I would say, pretty decently era appropriate, more or less.
Yeah.
So, success. Then there's some other things here and there. The Doctor is correct that they would have had wire by this point, but they would have had wire well earlier than 150 years before this, since the use of wire in jewelry, at least, although I don't know about its conducting potential, dates back to the 2nd millennium BCE.
In the line, if I remember correctly, he was referring to a specific way of making it that they would have had for that long, but I'm not
which I
sure
didn't
exactly.
Quite catch. And if that's what it specifically is talking about, then I missed what exactly the line was. I will say that, at this point, wire still is generally manually produced. and that we don't have like the wire mills that are making larger quantities and that are potentially probably closer to how we would make wire today. We don't have those until the 16th century.
Fair.
So I'll give it like a so-so on the wire situation. Then, of course, some things that are maybe not so great. First of all, as mentioned, Demnos. Demnos is nothing. Demnos is not a real god. We did not pick a real Roman god for this. Nor, by the way, is there any evidence of there being, like, large-scale, visible, like, worship of a Roman pagan god being around in the 15th century.
Yeah, that's wrong area for that, if anything. Like,
yeah,
for one.
Yeah, and it's the 15th century. Like, even for like Scandinavia, that's like a bit late.
Right. Like, I think maybe the Lithuanians are still holding out at that point, but only them.
And it's not even. I would say I'm pretty sure by this point it would be like Lithuania. I think at this point is like essentially maybe like officially sort of Christianized, but I'm sure there are pockets.
Yeah.
But so like the 15th century is very late, and in particular Italy is, for, you know, obvious reasons having to do with the Roman Empire, pretty thoroughly Christianized pretty early. It's a weird presence that we have here, and they would have been really, I think, much more worried about heresy than about the worship of Demos.
Yeah, this is pre-Luther, but not by much.
Right, exactly. 1517 is the 95 Theses.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we're, you know, in the 25 to 30-ish years before Luther kind of range, depending on exactly what date it is, which we don't technically know. There are a lot of heretical movements of various kinds running around that include things that one might describe as being kind of proto-Protestant, as well as ones that are very into intense voluntary poverty, which the church isn't fond of.
Yeah.
So there certainly are, you know, things that, say, the Inquisition would be worried about, and heretical movements that would be of concern from a, you know, organized church perspective, but the worshippers of Demnos are not one of them.
Yeah. Catholic heresies, they had some wide variance in beliefs, but I don't think any of them did human sacrifice.
No.
Certainly not on a wide-scale level.
No. No, there is no precedent for that. The Vikings actually did have human sacrifice. At some point, they were sort of going back and forth as to whether that was real or whether that was just, like, some shit that Christians said, but they, I believe, have found some archaeological evidence that is compatible with them having human sacrifice.
It's interestingly not the first time that Doctor Who has dealt with human sacrifice.
Interesting.
The first time was in the 1964 serial The Aztecs. Which,
and they certainly
that definitely was a thing.
Sacrifice. And actually, it's interesting because Demnos is supposed to be a Roman god, and the Romans are really not big into human sacrifice.
I didn't think so, no.
No. If I'm remembering correctly, and, you know, this is just off the top of my head, I haven't researched this, and I'm not a classicist, but off the top of my head, in the Greek context, there are occasional, at least, stories about human sacrifice that are usually presented either ambiguously or negatively.
Yeah.
They're very rarely just straight up like human sacrifice is fucking awesome.
There are certain cults of Dionysus that I believe were into it.
Right.
But otherwise it's not a major thing.
Right. And even those cults, I feel like, you know, that in like Greek drama, there's some indication of like weird feelings about this.
I remember us, like, someone introducing the topic of Dionysus with the line, Dionysus, god of wine, parties, and having a bunch of really hardcore followers that murdered Orpheus that one time.
Well, and there's also that play, the Bacchae,
yes.
Which is the play where there's like the dude who like all of the women who like go into a Dionysic frenzy and end up, like, some woman, like, murders her son, which, I don't know, he probably deserves it. It's been a while since I read the play.
Yeah.
But usually when men get murdered in ancient Greek plays, they deserve it.
Yeah, from what I remember, the Bacchae, it's like, the premise is, like, Dionysus, like, comes to, like, he's, like, a new god, like, this is shortly after he, like, you know, is born and starts doing god stuff, and he comes to this town, and he's like, yo, I'm a god, worship me, and
the king's like, fuck off, basically,
yeah,
right?
the king's like, fuck off, and so Dionysus is like, well, fuck you, and like, because I really am, and so he drives, like, half the population insane, and they turn into his forest marauding party cult that murders a bunch of people. So
yeah,
good times.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Romans are like not big into human sacrifice. Like,
no.
So it's a slightly weird choice.
Yeah.
Mandragora is not a real thing either.
No.
But fun fact: the word mandragora is the Latin name for mandrake, a plant that has hallucinogenic effects. Which, I don't know. He seems like he can sort of do weird things with people, so that's interesting.
All right, that's a connection I wouldn't have made, but it works.
And yeah, the mandrake was also very popular in folk medicine as an anesthetic, which probably was actually a pretty decent one, and an aphrodisiac, which it maybe wasn't such a decent one.
Yeah, I've heard
I don't know. Depends on what you're into, I guess.
I've heard of its use as an aphrodisiac, but...
Yeah, and in the Bible, it's actually described as something that might be used for fertility treatments.
All right. Sure.
Yeah. There's this like whole bit where they're like trading mandrakes for sex.
All right. Sure.
It's like Leah and Rachel, like, and
that
Leah's
one.
got some mandrakes.
Okay. I remember this now.
And she trades the mandrakes to Rachel so that she can use them for a fertility treatment in exchange for like being able to like have sex with Jacob an extra night because he doesn't want to have sex with her because he doesn't like her.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I remember this story now because Rachel had fertility issues for a while.
Yeah, and I think it is as a result of the mandrake trade situation that she does eventually conceive and give birth to Joseph.
Okay, yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah.
When I was 12, I was like, I'm gonna actually read the Bible from cover to cover. And I made it as far as 2 Samuel, and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, that's fair. You know? Honestly, like, good on you for getting past Leviticus. Like,
right?
Yeah, I never actually sat down and read the Bible cover to cover, but I would say that I have at some point read all of the Bible over the course of years.
Makes sense.
And, medievalist, it's useful.
Same.
You need it for things. Then finally, the other thing that I will note that they are a bit off on is he complains that in another 50 years, they would have had Galileo's telescope. And since it's like the 1490s, he would need to go a bit further forward than that, since the telescope was developed in 1609, over a century after this episode takes place.
Yeah.
Whoops. And that, in terms of our scientific speculation, can then lead into the Historia et Veritas, where we talk about a real historical event, person, or phenomenon, where I'm going to talk about science and, quote, the Renaissance.
I am only now realizing that this is the first piece of media you've covered that goes into the Renaissance. This is going to be fun.
I've done a couple of things that take place in what they would call, and like in what might technically be considered like Renaissance, early modern,
but not in
none that have
not in Italy at the epicenter of the whole everything.
Yeah. The closest I've done probably is Dangerous Beauty, which is Veronica Franco.
Okay.
But I haven't done anything that's very invested in reproducing certain mythologies about the Renaissance, which this serial very much is.
Mm-hmm.
The word Renaissance literally means rebirth. Traditionally, the Renaissance is seen as being the rebirth of classical learning. I always struggle when I explain this to my students. The reason I struggle is because I can't curse in class, and the most clear and succinct way to explain how I feel about this and what the actual reality is to say that it's bullshit.
Yep.
But I'm not supposed to say that in front of the undergrads. Anyway, it's bullshit.
Yep.
And the reason we believe it is basically because the Renaissance is, as much as in some ways more than anything else, a really good marketing campaign.
What it does well is propaganda for itself.
Exactly, that they came up with the term to describe themselves. They're also the people who came up with the term medieval or Middle Ages. Medieval really means the same thing. It's medium ium, Middle Age. And they came up with this term to be like, well, we're the awesome period now. And then there was the classical era. And then there was a bunch of shit that happened in the middle that we don't give a shit about.
Oh, boy. Good grief.
And that's why the period is called the Middle Ages or the medieval period, is because of this Renaissance marketing campaign, essentially. That's like, look how awesome we are.
Almost as bad as the Victorians.
Right. Yeah.
Which is another...
Sometimes I don't know who I hate more.
That's another rant to have later.
Oh, yes. Between the Victorians and the Renaissance, they ruined everything.
Yep.
So the reality is that the Renaissance did involve perhaps a more active emphasis on classical models in literature and in art. So, for example, in art, it's not that medieval people were too dumb to figure out perspective, it's that they didn't value that particular kind of realism as an artistic trope, essentially. Whereas that's very much something that's valued in Renaissance art, where you can barely, like, trip over a Renaissance painting that doesn't have this, like, aggressive, like, look at me, I know how to do perspective, look at this building over here.
Yeah.
Look at how he's standing in the middle of an arch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm acting like I really hate it. I like a lot of Renaissance art.
The Renaissance art is good. The art is good. The aspersions it casts on its relative past sucks.
Yes, and also there is a lot of very bad Renaissance art. Very good Renaissance art is very good. Very bad Renaissance art is hysterically bad.
The good Renaissance art is the stuff you hear about because it's good.
Well, yeah, exactly. But then when you, like, go to all of these, like, little museums in Italy, you see a lot of really shitty Renaissance art.
Fair. And
you see a lot of very good Renaissance art, of course.
And the hysterically bad stuff is not the sort of thing that, say, your sister who's on vacation will take pictures of and bring home to show you. Right.
It's the sort of thing I take pictures of, and then I'm like, look at this, like, 85th ugly Renaissance baby. But,
Yep.
Essentially what, as I said, the Renaissance is in terms of its relationship to the classical world is essentially a kind of emphasis on certain kinds of classicizing models in literature and art. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with science, first of all. And second of all, it is worth noting that in terms of the kind of overall corpus of classical literature, philosophy, and scientific texts, medieval people had a lot of access to a lot of that. First of all, the idea that no one in the Middle Ages had any of these texts is, above all, extremely Eurocentric, since they had a lot of those texts in the Middle East, that the Abbasid caliphs in particular are very invested in these translation projects in the 8th and 9th century, where they're translating a ton of texts from Greek into Arabic, and so they have access to a whole lot of these texts.
Yeah. Baghdad was really probably the biggest center of learning in the world right up until Genghis Khan's grandson burned it to the ground.
Right.
Which sucked.
No, absolutely. So this is really this epicenter of learning and of scientific and philosophical speculation, which of course are often very deeply related to one another. Mm-hmm. The other thing to keep in mind is that much of the rediscovery or new access to texts that many people previously had not had access to because sometimes they were sort of around, but they were in Greek and people didn't know Greek. A lot of this comes from translation projects, which are in fact well before the Renaissance in the 12th and 13th centuries, of a lot of these texts, not from the Greek, but in fact from the Arabic now into Latin, which are in themselves really interesting in that they're these often multilingual and multi-religious translation projects where often you'll have a, say, Jewish or Muslim translator who will translate the Arabic into the local vernacular, and then a Christian who will then translate that into Latin.
Yeah.
They had a lot of those texts, a lot of the things that they're like, the medieval people, they didn't know what happened in a Rome. Or a Greece. They had those things. They had a whole lot of those things. And also, they had science. Not all of it was accurate, but it is better and more accurate than people assume. And a lot of what they got wrong is shit that the Greeks and Romans also got wrong, which then persisted into the 17th century. For example, something like the four humors, which might be brought up as, like, medieval people are dumb at science. This idea that the body is composed of these kind of four elements that are in different kinds of balance or lack of balance with one another. It goes back to the Greeks.
Yes.
It's Galen. And B, they fucking loved the four humors all the way up through, like, the 17th century.
Oh, yeah.
So, maybe stop pretending that you're so special.
Yep.
This show also perpetuates a common myth that everyone believed that the Earth was flat until Columbus was like, oh, it's round.
Yeah, no. Columbus was a dunce. Like, what?
Yeah.
Basically, the reason that the first people he went to, I forget if he went to Portugal first, I think. The reason that the reason that the King of Portugal didn't want to sponsor him is because he's like, I can since the world is round, I can just sail across this way and get to Asia. And the King of Portugal was like, dude, your calculations are super wrong, and like the world is a lot bigger than you think it is.
And that is in fact exactly what happened.
That is in fact exactly what happened, because he's like, hey, I got to this thing in the distance I thought it was, but it's not Asia, it turns out.
Right.
Not that he realized that, because again, he's an idiot.
Well, he's a fucking idiot, yeah. So yes, Columbus is not this goddamn scientific genius. He's a idiot and also a genocidal piece of shit.
Yep.
He is also, to the extent that he is saying anything that, like, you know, is recognizable to us as being accurate, it's only things that would have been essentially standard for his own time. The idea of the spherical Earth goes back to at least Aristotle, so that's 4th century BCE, and would have been standard among medieval intellectuals. There's essentially no evidence, especially by the time you're in like the 12th century, there's no evidence that there are any university-educated medieval scholars who believe in a flat Earth.
Yeah, there was like some, I think, Egyptian mathematician who actually was able to calculate the circumference of the Earth based on like...
Yes.
Based on length of shadows and some poles he stuck into the ground.
Yes, like he managed to calculate the circumference of the Earth, and I think it actually might have gotten pretty close.
Yeah, I think his...
Like, not bad?
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. I don't remember his name, but
yeah.
But I do remember...
I don't either.
But it was a long time ago.
And it's also something that, in addition to being what was, considered to be standard knowledge among, university-educated intellectuals, it's also something that seems to have been basically accepted among the general public, too, that the Earth is round. So, for example, there's this German Franciscan, Berthold von Regensburg, who in the 13th century has this sermon where he just kind of refers basically offhand to a spherical Earth in a way that is basically assuming that anyone who's listening to him is not going to think twice about, like, is the Earth a sphere? The way that it's kind of presented is very much kind of implying that, like, this isn't new or weird information.
Yeah.
And similarly, if you read Dante's Divine Comedy, which is a literary text written in an Italian vernacular in the 14th century, this also is depicting the Earth as a sphere.
My roommate has a copy of that, and I keep meaning to read it.
Oh, you should.
I really should.
I'm excited. I'll be teaching it next semester.
Right now I'm in the middle of a book about the Domesday Book, because the Domesday Book itself is dense and also in Norman. So
yeah, that's one of the things that you pore over, you don't read.
Exactly.
So that's something that they do. And finally, the Renaissance isn't really marked by particularly dramatic scientific advancements, especially when you're talking about the classical kind of high Renaissance period of the 15th, 16th century. Da Vinci actually has some kind of fairly impressive discoveries, but he doesn't publish them. He just, writes some notes to himself, and nobody knows about them. And they essentially have zero influence on the trajectory of later science.
He writes his notes in code, mirrored.
Right. Nobody knows what the fuck he said.
No. His inventions are impressive, but they never made it out of the design phase.
Right, and they wouldn't have made sense in a lot of ways with technology that he had at the time. So
True.
It makes sense that they never got out of the design phase.
Yeah. The man designed a tank and then specifically encoded his notes because he's like, no one should have this technology.
So again, it's he's very impressive and he's very influential in art, but he's really not influential in science because, he wrote all of these things in code and hid them and nobody read them. So it's not like people are reading that and based on that are like, oh, that's how things should work. I also want to note that the Renaissance is often perceived as well as this period in which people are suddenly, and by people I mean I'm specifically talking about Stephen Greenblatt's The Swerve, a book that I hate, and that I literally have I'm teaching Lucretius's De Re Naturam next semester for a humanities class, and I'm literally going to begin with a lecture about how I fucking hate the Swerve. So my students know what they're getting into for the rest of the semester.
Yep.
He very much presents the Renaissance as not only being this period where science, but also where we have sudden toleration extended to peoples whose scientific speculations seem to go against doctrine promoted by the church. I guess he's never fucking heard of fucking Galileo. Yep. I guess he's never fucking heard of Galileo, who was tried by the Inquisition for heresy for saying that the Earth revolved around the sun, and then died under house arrest.
Yeah.
Where he spent the last 4 years of his life. And he was also, before that, he was forced to recant.
turn on Nova that story is recounted in like every third episode.
Yeah. And Galileo died in 1642, which is well even after the kind of classical era of the Renaissance. So, maybe get your shit in order.
Yeah.
Also, the Renaissance is when all the witch burnings happened. So again, the Renaissance, not that great. Not that great, y'all.
Nope.
And of course also, some of the most dramatic denials of science are very fundamentally just modern, looking at you, climate deniers, looking at you, anti-maskers.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not like we, grew out of that whole pretending science is a real thing.
Nope.
And in the Middle Ages, I will say, the science wasn't right, but people were actually, I think, in the Middle Ages, less invested in denying that science was real than a lot of people are right now in this year, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
During the Black Death, a lot of people thought there was a religious explanation, but they thought the religious explanations and the scientific ones could coexist, and they never said, no, don't quarantine, God will help us, the way they're doing right goddamn now.
Yeah.
In conclusion, this is why I spent a lot of time groaning every time he talks about how this is the 15th century and we've left the Dark Ages and entered a new age of reason.
God.
And also I would like to recommend a book if you're interested in learning more about this. There's a very new book by scholar Seb Falk called The Light Ages, and it's coming out. It's come out from a trade press. Ooh. It's intended to be accessible to non-academics as well as academics. I just actually started reading it, but I've read a lot about it and I'm very excited about it.
I will have to pester my local library into getting a copy.
Yeah.
I can be good at pestering.
Yes, so you should all pester your libraries. I hate to advertise Amazon, but I was able to get the Kindle copy for only $9.
That's not a bad deal.
So I highly recommend that for people who are interested in learning more about how, yes, they had science in the Middle Ages.
Yeah. Before we go on, I want to do just a hint of foreshadowing. Earlier, we've mentioned the plague a few times and how and later outbreaks of it. That is a topic that we will be looking into more on our next foray into Doctor Who.
Ooh,
so
exciting.
that's something to look forward to.
Very exciting to be talking more about the plague
in our
own time of plague.
In an episode that has a specific year and specific location and is a real plague outbreak.
Exciting.
So yeah. History.
Yeah. We don't have to play the what year is it game.
No, we don't, because the year is very explicitly implied. Well, there's a very specific event that nails down an exact date, but
yes.
But we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yes. So I think we can now move into the Fabula Nostra segment, where we talk about a film, show, whatever, inspired in some way by this one. I was inspired by the fact that, well, as mentioned, I'm very frustrated by the, look at all the science in this episode, when maybe the science isn't that great or that different. But one of the things that is, of course, at least a kind of major development, I don't believe in this kind of, quality judgment, so I wouldn't say improvement, but certainly a development is in the visual arts, and we, of course, have a lot of great artists from this period who create a lot of fantastic works. So inspired by that as really the, I would say, in many ways, great actual contribution of the Renaissance, and inspired by the last Doctor Who episode we covered, where we had an alien kidnapping a bunch of people from a particular time period on Earth and taking them away. I really like a Doctor Who episode where you just have an alien who really loves Renaissance art and keeps kidnapping Renaissance artists to go and decorate his space palace.
That would be fun. I would enjoy that.
Yeah, and so we have the Doctor is hanging out in sometime in Renaissance Italy, and he has to figure out how to get back Da Vinci and Michelangelo and all of these people who got kidnapped and should be painting the Sistine Chapel, but instead are painting this dude's space palace.
Sure, I could get behind that.
So that's what I want.
I'd watch it. I think for me, I'd still draw on the themes of the alien intelligence trying to meddle with human society, but I think I would go more subtle and also go on a more of an arts route where they try to introduce little hypnotic symbolism elements in Renaissance paintings so that people who look at them later will get ideas subconsciously implanted in their brains. And
So sort of Aliens meets Da Vinci Code.
yeah, kinda. Yeah. That would be bad. And so the Doctor has to stop them. That's what I would make.
That sounds good. I would watch that.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could do a Renaissance episode of Doctor Who that isn't about look at the Renaissance and their science. You could do that.
That would be fun.
All these options.
Yep.
That's such great options. So we can now rate this on a regular scale from 1 to 5. I really enjoyed the combination of sci-fi and, kind of historical fiction elements. But man, the whole like Dark Ages science stuff, I was having a rough time. I was really struggling. So
yeah.
I think based on that, I'm going to go with a 2.5. But I would recommend this. So read a book to learn how this is wrong, but also watch it. It's fun.
Yeah, going on that scale. All the Dark Ages comments really bother me, but like all in all, everything else about this I genuinely enjoyed. So
yeah.
So I think I'm gonna go 4 out of 5 on this one.
All right. And I think as often happens, I think maybe like my harshness and my guest's enthusiasm probably gets it to like what I think is maybe like a very like fair
average.
I don't know what that amounts to, like 3.25 or something like that average rating.
I think that works, yeah.
Which I think from a like, I don't know, combining like historical stuff and quality stuff, I don't know, that seems maybe kind of fair. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything that you would like to plug?
So I've got a project in the works. I mentioned this last time, but it hasn't really gone anywhere yet. But it's inspired by this program, Media-eval. I'm trying to do a podcast of my own that's sort of a reverse Media-eval, if you will, where instead of reviewing various works set in a specific time period, I go through Doctor Who and have experts on for the time periods that they visit. So
awesome.
If you are a historian or anthropologist or have some other form of expertise, I have a Twitter at Lizzie Strider, and you can feel free to message me on there and put this together, because so far the main thing that's stymieing further progress is the fact that I don't know anyone. I know you, but that's it.
So if you listen to this and have any other, and have relevant expertise in some other area, reach out.
Yeah.
Well, if you've enjoyed this podcast, you should subscribe in your preferred podcatcher app and rate and review on Apple Podcasts, and I will read new 5-star reviews in future episodes. Please also follow the podcast on Twitter at Media-eval Pod and join our Facebook group. And you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Sarah If Decker, where I mostly these days bitch about politics. If you have any questions or suggestions, I would also love to hear from you via email at media.evalpod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to Media-eval. Bye.
Bye.